next guest. Very excited to be sticking in London this time, but we're just doing it over the Zoom waves for just now until we can meet in real life. Hi, Kaine. How's it going?
Hi, Venn. I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah, really nice to see you and chat to you.
I know it would be
And
better in real life, especially as we're only down the block. But
only down the blocks. Yeah, we're in
well,
London,
over the Thames,
over the Thames. Yeah. So where in London do we find you?
in Stoke Newington, North London. Yeah, I
Yes.
moved about. It will be 5 years in September of this year, but it's been 4 years this last September since I've been in London.
Cool. Yeah, Stoke Newington is somewhere that one of my old haunts in London at some point as well. I
Yeah,
love
it's
it.
so
Nice,
lovely.
nice sweet area. It's like a wee
Yeah, it's
like
really nice.
village in North
It
London.
really is that village, and just like having the access to like Abney Park and like the
Hmm.
River Lee and
Oh
stuff. It
yeah.
is, you just walk out of the high street and then there's like no one, and you don't feel like you're in a capital
Yeah,
city. It's very important, especially this last year. It's been a
absolutely.
lifesaver.
So is Abney Cemetery Park been your walk? Your daily
Basically,
walk? Yeah.
basically,
I'm
the
like so
main
sick of the
cruising
park.
place too. Yeah,
You
I
can
mean,
you can do everything there.
I know. Typical me. Lived here for 4 years. Only found out this year that it was a crazy spot.
Oh, too late. Wrong year to find
Too
out.
late. Wrong year. Absolutely.
It's very nice, though, very pretty. And you can do other things as well. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and a nice little high street as well. So, where were you before London?
So I was born in England, on the Isle of Sheppey, which is in Kent. And then when I was 6, I moved to France with my family. And so my family just like up sticks and left England and took their 3 kids, and we moved with another family actually. And it was like 6 kids, and we bought this big old farmhouse.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, I grew up in the countryside of France, to the point where when I speak to English people, they don't know where I'm from in England. And when I speak to French people, they're like, nope, I don't know
Nope.
where.
What's going on?
Yeah, Poitiers, near Poitiers,
Oh,
which,
no way. So,
yeah,
I know
famous battle.
Poitiers. I know Poitiers because my
Ah,
brother lives in Tours.
no way, too.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Tours.
So I was between those two. And
I've,
lots of English people living in the countryside. My co-producer and like
Mhm.
co-musical partner Finn Sally, he still lives over there, and he's based in Bordeaux as a musician. And so yeah, my half of my life really, I grew up there, went to uni there, then I studied a year in Germany, and then I did a year in the French Alps working as a waiter, and that's when I decided to come and pursue a master's in journalism in London. And I applied from there, moved from there, and I've been here for ever since. So, bit weird to no
Mm,
longer be in Europe.
yeah.
But
And
that's another podcast.
it's too much to talk about already.
I know.
Um, so, did you grow up bilingual then?
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, so it would be, Monsieur Madame at school, and then come home, Tracy Beaker or Blue Peter. And I literally have all my British culture through television. So because we managed to like hike the satellite pointing, so we could still get like that's illegal, but Sky TV, but everyone
They
does
might
it.
get you years later. They might still get
I
you.
know, right? Not me. But yeah, and so we literally lived these kind of this, yeah, bilingual life of kind of speaking English within the family. And then it's really cool because you meet English people and you have an instant connection,
Mm.
because you're like, oh, we're the same. But all of the people that I knew that were English were also bilingual in French. So when I moved back to London, my mum said to me, you need to learn to just speak English, because right now your Franglais, like your English French, it's a bit too
Franglais.
much. So I think a lot of bilingual, yeah, people could relate. It's quite hard to get your life back in an order. But I live with a French, another English and French person that I met when I was 11 over there, and her boyfriend who's actually French. So we speak French every day at home,
Okay.
and I work in a French company too. So keeping the French, but I do feel like I've become much more English than the last 4 years, which I never
Mhm.
felt like ever. So,
Mm.
so
That's
yeah.
cool. Do you miss France?
I do. I miss a lot of things. It's weird because I think, when you grow up say you're from Scotland,
I
and I
am.
bet you have a lot of love for Scotland, but also I bet when you grow up, you were like, well, fuck Scotland, what else is there, you know? And that's how I
Yeah.
feel a bit about France, but I also always had that thing where I knew I was also from England and I had that whole other life.
Mm,
So I definitely think wherever I am right now, I'm very nostalgic for when I'm in France, and I think it's always a bit vice versa. In France, I
mhm.
was the English boy,
Right.
even though I'd lived there since I was 6, but I was always the English guy, even though I basically spoke as good French as like a French native. And
Yeah.
and now when I'm here, I'm kind of very like, I'm still European, like I'm not, you know, because I think a lot of people, like when they know, they're like, oh, you speak 5 languages, like that doesn't happen a lot for like a British person, really,
Mm, yeah.
because we famously
Don't
don't
speak
learn
anything.
languages.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um, yeah, I wish my French was better. It is quite good because my brother lives there, but whenever I go across, they all teach him and his husband. Yes, he's a gay as well.
Ah,
And all their friends, they're all English teachers. So of course,
oh,
whenever I
nice.
go across and clumsily try to speak French, they're like, "Stop, it's fine."
J'adore. Very good. And when was the last time you went?
This time last year, actually. So I'd just gone across to France to visit him. Yeah, right about the half-term holidays because I
Mm.
teach in primary school a little bit as well. I teach guitar in primary school. So I'd gone across to visit him half-term holidays, and then went to Paris for a night as well. And it was just when coronavirus was like this thing that was like sort of happening at the other side of the world, and of
Yeah.
course, us Europeans were like, "Oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine." And then a few weeks later, there we were. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
my last trip abroad. Actually, was to visit. So I've been quite a lot. I know it. I know Tours quite well, where he lives. So
That's cool. Yeah,
uh,
I've got one of my best friends lives in
sympathetic.
Tours, and actually Mathilde, and I actually went. That's where I went there in August of last year,
There you
last year,
go.
2020, because I went back to see my family because I hadn't seen them. Like I've just got a baby nephew too who's born. He's like gonna be 2 in April, so it's like I've only seen him like 3 times now. So it's like, yeah. But c'est la vie,
C'est
as
la
they
vie, non?
say.
Ah, la
I
vie.
know.
Um, wait, so we will talk about some other stuff as well, but as well as just your life history. Okay, so French and English. You said you spoke 5 languages, so I'm assuming
Yes.
German is another one. What are the other two?
Jawohl. Yes. So I speak German and also some Portuguese and some Italian and a bit of Spanish. And I did 2 years of Russian, so I can kind of read
Ah,
and write in Russian. But I haven't. So when I was going to do an Erasmus in Moscow,
mhm.
actually, or
Oh
St.
wow.
Petersburg, and it was actually my teacher who said, if you go to Russia, it might have to be a year of cultural discovery rather than partying and being yourself. Basically, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
are you are you
You,
suggest
what are you suggesting?
um
Yeah.
what are you suggesting, basically? Oh, poor Olga, but she's a lovely lady. In the end I decided to do Erasmus in Germany, and I mean, yeah, I'm really glad I did, because I love German and I love Germany, and I met some amazing friends, and it was just right. But I do love learning languages, and so to know
Mhm.
that I kind of like I've got some good basics and foundation. But when do you go to Russia, and how many Russian friends do you know? Like, I need to find Russian people to talk to, really,
Okay, so
and
we'll
try
put
and
the call out there now. If you're
put
Russian
the call
listening,
out. If you're a Russian
Kane is looking for
single,
some friendship. Okay, single
oh,
Russian,
but yeah,
friends
no,
with uh, benefits,
linguistic benefits, we shall
linguistic
say.
benefits.
Linguistic benefits. But yeah, no, I love languages, and that's why I love like storytelling, and I think it
Mm,
really goes into
yeah.
that whole passion of like never shutting up, but also never stopping singing and talking. It's kind of like, oh well, if I can speak and make people laugh or tell a story in one language, well, why not learn how to do it in
Mm,
5? That's how I always.
absolutely. Uh, I'm going to come back to that, but before that, I just want to ask, what's the Isle of Sheppey like?
The Isle of Sheppey.
Because I've
So
never been. I don't really. I know it's a place, but I don't really
yeah.
know anything about it.
So like, as I've grown up telling people island, a lot of people's eyes have gone, ooh la la, like, maybe ooh exotica,
Oh yeah.
but no, it's typically they used to have hospitals. Now all they've got is prisons.
Mm-hmm.
But no, that's harsh. Isle of Sheppey is this beautiful little sea island on the Southend-on-Sea, like the bum. I like to call it the bum of England,
Okay.
just below Southend-on-Sea,
Mm-hmm.
opposite. And it's a small island. And yeah, I grew up there. All my family are from there, and I actually found out this year. I've got Italian descent, and basically an Italian ancestor moved in 1881 to Manchester and then married a Welsh lady and had 11 children in Peckham and then moved to the Isle of Sheppey. And my family just sprouted from there. And basically, it was really lovely kind of holiday resort. Henry VIII took one of his wives to a palace there. But then from the 70s, it kind of went downhill and was a bit more kind of like, I don't know. And my parents were just like, let's get out of here. Let's go to France, go to the countryside, cheaper too. But yeah, so Isle of Sheppey, it's weird because like all my family have grown up there and I've gone away, but I know it's where I'm from, but I've never really whenever I go, it's like, oh, I remember this place when I was young, but I haven't really created many new memories there as an
Mm-hmm.
adult,
Okay.
So it really feels like childhood land.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that's a particular feeling I guess you'll have of that place,
Exactly.
which are sort of attached to
But
childhood memories.
but it did inspire and create my obsession for the sea and the water and
Mm.
living by the sea. Like my garden, we could like peek out and see the sea.
Okay, love it.
And there's this famous battleship there, the SS Richards, that sunk, and you can see all the masts when the
Okay.
tide's low. So we'd go up the Glen, which is like a big park, and we'd look at it. So no, it's a lovely place, and I miss living by the sea. That's
Mm.
definitely my element.
So you're inspired with the sea, which I
Hmm.
totally get. I'm absolutely love the sea. I'm obsessed with islands a little bit myself.
Yeah, same.
um,
That's
yeah.
my whole.
And so, in terms of this coming into your songwriting, I feel like already I feel like I know a little bit more about you, and it makes a little bit of sense because I feel like your songwriting is quite storytelling, and
Mhm.
I think it's interesting that you're talking about knowing all these different languages and like yeah, sort of thinking about stories, maybe the history of places and stuff as well. So
Mhm.
is that an influence on your writing, all of that stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. I've since I was little, I just have loved stories. Like it's just the I think the escape and creating universes. I'm very
Mm,
imaginative. And that always really hindered me growing up because and I still think there's a lot to do. But children aren't taught or encouraged to be creative enough, I think. And I was always told I'd never get a higher degree because I'm crap at maths. And I mean, on my Tinder bio, it says I can speak 6 languages, but I have hard trouble telling the time on an analog watch. So it's like, I always was kind of pushed back from being creative and like at school and in those structures. So like
mm,
my dad's a musician and like
mm,
my dad's really creative too and my mum is too, and so I think I got that, but like life and school, I always kind of put myself down because I don't think people give creativity and imagination enough value and like emotional intelligence, which was always a big thing. Like my mum used to say, like that by the age of 5, I knew all the lyrics to Shania Twain's "Come On Over" album, and like even black eyes, I don't need 'em.
classic.
Blue tears.
My
Like
goodness.
it's like she was like, I'd turn around in my car and there's this baby, like an actual baby, singing all like lips. Like I've always had a good memory, and I've just loved um just being drawn into stories and like how encompassing that is. And so when you are, as you are, a singer-songwriter, like producer, music maker, every time I create a song, it's kind of like a big bang, and I'm kind of like, okay, this is what universe we create in, and that's from the way I see it in my like sonically, um, also I'm a bit synesthetic, so I kind of see music in colors a bit. So
Mm.
different chords and kind of different moods are quite colorful for me, and I only realized it like by saying to my flatmate like 10 years ago, like, oh, what's that Florence and the Machine song that's kind of like green and like black and silver? And she was like, what the fuck are you on about? And I was like, don't you see music in color? And I googled it and I was like, oh, maybe I'm synesthetic. And so like it's not like, everyone's like, oh, what's this, what's that? It's more just how I can, it's like the background of my mind changes to the
Mm-hmm.
color of the song. So and I think a lot of artistic people would agree that you've got those kind of those all the senses that kind of combine into like a synergy. Did I just say that word? Oh my gosh.
Synergy. Oh,
Kind of
ding,
like,
ding,
yeah,
ding. I don't think
and
I've had that word yet.
ding dong. Um yeah, so a synergy or something. And I don't know, I always have this like naive kind of, and this is I think the childish kind of like love almost of magic, is that like music is magic, and like that moment, when like a song just gets you, and that's what I'm always looking for in my songs. And so
Mm.
it's this chase, and then I know that I'm also depending what I listen to, then I'm like, oh, I want to do that, like as you can see Kate Bush behind me,
Mm-hmm. I
um
can.
the
Yeah.
Queen,
Kate Bush Corner.
like discovering Hounds of Love in an album which is so conceptual like a few years ago, and just that artist. And also we've got Björk over there, up here,
Oh,
Utopia.
hi, Abits.
I
Yeah.
discovered Björk this summer, and I was just like, oh, and those are the sort of artists that I love,
Mm.
that it's all in the details, because for me music is it's a one-on-one thing actually. And it's like me in the song, and then when I'm performing it's me in the crowd. But I'm not the sort of person that puts on a playlist for kind of, I've learned how to do it, but I used to be the person who would put Kate Bush on in a party and make everyone listen to it and explain to them everything. But now I've learned, oh no, let's just put like like a samba playlist on or something, that we can. So I've kind of like
Save Kate
honed.
Bush for the after party. That's fine.
That's it, exactly. A Björk and a Kate Bush to an after party. Christ, I'd love it. So yeah, I think that's my the kind of childish like magic seekingness in me.
Mm.
And it's always a journey, and that's why every album I create, or I create really quickly. Like only my first album came out in 2018 up high, and we'd never produced before, and we just made 12 track. Well, I did 23 tracks in a year, and then cut them down to 16, and then cut them down to 12. And it was my first up high. It was my kind of first um it was like I was a kid in chocolate in a sweet factory, and I was like, I can create as many songs as I want. I can really just hone in on each level. And so Finn and I, we created this album from scratch just here.
Oh, visual
And
coming.
there it
Watching
is.
YouTube.
Eh,
Yes, I
and
recognize the artwork. Yeah, it's very
so up
distinct.
high, and so we just made it, and it was just my first kind of like, I have the power and I can be those people that I admired, and I want to do that. The sad thing is, you don't realize when you do it, is that you get over your own songs much quicker than you get over others. And you're kind of, by the time it gets out, you're kind of like, I'm creating new things, so it's
I know,
always
it's
a
so weird,
race.
isn't it? That thing of like, oh yeah, yeah, it's like oh yeah, this is a brand new song, and you're like, oh yeah, I wrote that like however long ago and recorded
Yeah,
it. When you're
I
in the
know.
studio doing it, that's when you're so excited, but then you can't
I
tell
know.
anybody about it until.
And I know, and it's a real practice on yourself, isn't it? Actually, to
Mm.
try and I try and not listen to them as much, like at all, especially now with pandemic, because basically after writing my first album, I then had written like The Channel, which is a little 5-song EP, which for me kind of is the continuation of Up High. It was kind of like, the first, they're all in the same kind of universe, the same Marvel universe, shall we say. And
Hmm.
then if you go to the new one, this one for me was like, okay, this is a new break. We're going for a new sound. We're going for a different universe completely. And yeah, and it's, but then so I created it, a few songs that nearly went in the channel, and now that I realized weren't ready for that, etc. And then after that, the pandemic, it's like I've had these, you know, demos for over a year now, and I'm like, and the thing is, Finn and I, we, you know, go, so that the demo, I've showed people, they're like, this isn't a demo, this is the final track, because it starts off as me humming, and then now that I've, like, you know, worked and got myself some mics, I can kind of like whack out a song,
Mm-hmm.
and then we met this lovely Polly, cellist, pardon me, who kind of just like opened our eyes sonically as well, and really gave me
Mm-hmm.
something that I've always wanted, which is like an orchestral sound. um
Absolutely.
and that kind of led this, and so I've got these like babies, and it's like I just want to push them out, you know. And I can't go to the studio to finish the
Mm.
vocals. So, but it's, so for me right now, it's biding time, it's not writing too many songs to add on to it, not, you know, getting bored, etc. But I'm really excited for it though, because I think they're really cool songs.
Yeah, yeah. Sounds like you're on a bit of a creative flow at the moment.
Well, I'd like to say that I kind of always am, but it's like, it's, but no, there are definitely times that there's not. But because I've always got an album to kind of think about, you know, it's more like there's the album and I'm taking dips in, and that's why it's kind of frustrating. I can't just finish it because I know
Mm.
that my brain's going to want to do new things soon.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but
And
oh, the woes of being an
I
artist.
know, I know. It's difficult. It's difficult.
It is.
Is there, um, I don't want to say end game because that's not what I mean. Is there a future goal in mind with the music stuff, or are you quite happy just creating and continuing to create and as it is?
It's more like I don't really have the choice because I'm going to be creating all my life. It's one of those
Yeah,
things I've realized, you know, I'm never going to not. I
yeah.
think it's more the talking with myself in about expectations, and trying not to get myself to a level where if I don't make it, or whatever you want
Mm,
to call it, then I'll be okay.
mm,
And I think what I've done is I've actually made a really nice loyal following of like 100 to 200 people around the world, which I'm so happy
yeah,
from, and
amazing.
from friends and etc. But I've got people that still send me messages like, hi, I'm in Nicaragua, and like a friend sent me a message, or like a friend who said, oh, I showed my flatmates and they really love your voice. So,
Ah,
you know, it's really nice, and that's what it matters. But I think between album one and EP one, I had a bit of a, you know, I kind of worked for 2.5 years on Up High, and then released it, and then like it got, you know, 50 streams. Well, of course it did, because, you know, who knows more, you know, a million people, etc. And so, and then I was really hard on myself, and I really kind of was like, no, you know, fuck this. And it wasn't, and I wasn't very kind to myself. And that's why I wrote the channel, the song. And basically that's the motto to myself, to be like, it's okay, you know, what did you actually want,
mhm,
what was, you know, actually realistic, and what's okay to have. And then after, feeling down, I saw a friend of a friend. We actually met more at my first gig that he saw, and then we became good friends. And he said, I just want to say, I kept thinking about your gig like for weeks. You really, and I've listened to your songs, and track 11, Two Lovers, like it's really good. And that's when I was like, okay, Kaine, you've been down for days because of streams and numbers, and look, someone's actually listening to your music. So that's what I want to keep going, you know, working on myself. I mean, obviously, if we're in the 90s, if and you ask me this question on a, you know, big platform, I'd be like, well, one day the Grammys, and I'd love to be at MoMA, and I'd like to create an album with Arca and Björk, and, you know, but we'll see. I'll just keep
well,
putting me out to the
surprise,
world.
surprise. Tonight we're going back to the 90s.
Woohoo! Let's
I
do it.
wouldn't that be great?
I wish
Uh,
that'd be great.
well, no, but that's cool though, and I think same with me. I think the goal, you sort of change the goalpost yourself, or also like what making it is, and I think that continually changes, and especially in this last year as well. And
Yeah,
I see the music industry just in many ways becoming something that I don't actually like that much anymore. Or big bits of it I don't like, but at the same time, there's also bits of it that I think are really cool and interesting that are starting to kind of come out. And yeah, it's just finding where you are in that, and there is room for everybody.
There is,
But
and that I think a
success
lot of
is,
people don't think
yeah,
that. They
yeah,
don't
yeah,
think that there's room for everyone.
yeah, totally. And I think it's because we're kind of, yeah, sort of shaped into thinking that and worrying about our numbers. And I mean, the money side of it is another big conversation. But yeah, like
Yeah,
creating is creating. You're going to keep on creating, whether anyone listens to it
exactly.
or not. I think that's
That's it. That's my answer. And the positive side then is that actually people are listening to it. And there are people
yeah,
that I know or that I don't, but who would reach out and can reach out to me. And they're not, strangers that have just put it on
mm,
because it's on an editorial playlist and
yeah,
which is great. And I'd love to only if only so that I wouldn't have to work as much so that I could do more creating
yeah,
because and the struggle. But yeah, I'm really privileged to have a full-time job that pays for it, and if anyone's paying it's just me because it kind of burns me out doing both. But I have realized that I'm a very active person, and I wouldn't do. That's what Catching Fire is about, the other
mhm.
song on the EP. So I guess that EP really is like,
That was
what's okay?
smooth
What are
transit.
my, what are my issues? Catching Fire because my mum always said if you burn the candle at both ends, you'll get burnt, and she was like, that's what you're doing because doing like 7 days in a row working at work, and then that same night going to doing a gig, trag fucking bloody bringing along a 25-kilo piano to get that thing that's huge.
Hmm.
Why didn't I just pick ukulele? I'll
Mm.
never. Why do I have to be that ballad bitch?
Yeah, well, hey, but the piano is beautiful. Speaking of instruments, so you found inspiration in some cellos. What other
Yes.
instruments do you see in your future?
Ugh, every instrument. I just love it. I love discovering music through listening to it, but also through creating it. And I think that's such a privilege to do.
Mm,
And I've always been, a fan of, well, I mean, strings are my number one. I think strings are my number one obsession
mhm,
just because I think they're so dramatic, but they also cannot be. And I don't know, the sound of the cello. So cellist Polly Vere, she's one of the most talented people I've ever met. And the funny thing is we've met once because the last one of the last gigs I played before the pandemic at Soho, Spice of Life.
mhm. I
She
know it.
was,
Wow.
she was playing in a band called Ideal Forgery, who are a really cool kind of pop rock um, band, but kind of dreamy pop. And it's like this vocalist who's got long hair and he sings like almost got a nickelbacky kind of
Okay.
thing in his voice, really nice. And she was playing cello live, and they were before us. And I was just I don't know. Ever since I was little, I've just been obsessed with strings, and I just find it so cool. And I'm like, oh. And then I saw her playing with like a pedal and a loop, and I literally fell in love with her. But then she left, and I spoke to what I now know was actually her boyfriend, who was the drummer at the time, and he was like, oh yeah, Polly, she's got her own kind of studio up in Manchester, it's her house, she added her on Instagram. So I added her on Instagram. That was October, and then she didn't get back to me until like she didn't see the message until like March of the year after the pandemic. And she was like, hey, sorry I didn't see this, like yeah, I'd be up for like doing sending you some stems. And so I sent her this single that I'd written, which is going to be the next single, called Turn to Grey.
Hmm.
And she just sent this track Venn, and it was just like like gave me what I felt like I've always wanted, and then I wanted more. And then then there was all these, orchestras that were doing virtual. So I was like, who are your friends? Like I was trying to make this my own orchestra. I was like, I want my own quartet, I want my own bedroom orchestra. Because I think that's what the vibe of Up High, the concept with a boy who through music goes up to space. And basically now I'm turning it a bit more on its head. It's like we're playing between reality of like an orchestral yet modern pop sound, which kind of is an ode to storytelling. That will be the next album, and it's kind of like timeless but very modern, but also kind of orchestral and analog. So basically folklore from Taylor Swift, but she got it out before me. There you go. I said it.
Oh,
Honestly, a
we'll do
year
better.
ago, I was like, do you know what? It's all so hyper modern now. I want to kind of bring it back real, and I really want to be like, have some real sounds and create some real sounds. And especially like I'm a pianist, but like I ever recorded with a real piano. So like all my piano ballads that you listen to, they're all MIDI. And like, as you all know, as a musician, that can like break your soul. And I'm like, just give me a so this whole album has been trying to make as real as possible, because we aren't a band. We are me and Finn. And a lot of people, think, oh, do you have a band, blah blah, but no, it's like all the big ones do. It's multi-track. It's finding anyone, as you will know, not just anyone, asking friends to help out and making. I really like this idea of
Fiddling
like,
favors.
yeah, making a patchwork of music with really talented musicians. And what the great thing about musicians is, they all have passion, and I think everyone lends their own spirit to it. Like hearing melodies that on a song that I wrote from people that like you, with your little sax,
Saxophone. Oh,
um
exclusive.
exclusive. It's TMZ
Like
here.
that.
But like literally, I was dancing around listening to it again today in the park in Ebony Park, and I was just jamming,
dancing.
and I was like jamming, like, yes, Venn, like I just love, if you imagine, I don't know, that's me being the magic-y thing again, fucking hell, but it's like everyone's adding this energy together to make a kind of thing, and I love that, especially during, and that's the thing, this whole album is about loneliness and connectivity, and it was going to be about that before the pandemic, and then the pandemic happened and I kind of had to do it all alone. But I've never collaborated with so much like Polly, the strings, and
Yeah.
I've got a violinist too now, which is
Cool.
great. So I'm getting my orchestra.
You're getting it.
Doing it.
You're going to have the orchestra by the end of the year,
Yeah.
just in different homes. No, it's really
Yeah.
cool. I totally get that as well. It's like really exciting to hear something you've created and someone else putting their own interpretation on top of it.
For sure.
And yeah, it was fun. Like I would like when you asked me to do some saxophone for it as well. Like I was having like a really just like I've just had a frustrated week. I think I've just been waking up each day just kind of feeling kind of like
Yeah.
ugh. But I whipped out my saxophone, and it always like just going into that creative zone for a few hours, sitting there and just like and then creating something new that hadn't existed until I took that saxophone out. And then I was like,
It's the
oh, cool.
ultimate thrill.
I was just like, oh, that's cool. I just did that. Like, where did that come from? And like, obviously it came from you, but it came from you via me.
Exactly.
Cool.
Exactly. It's like channeling the energy, and then makes me, I don't really like to think of my songs as mine. I like them to imagine, like if I don't have a band, then just why not everyone, whoever can give, it's kind of like, I think there's a beauty in that.
Absolutely.
And I like it.
Well, it's very exciting and sounds like you've got loads of exciting things in the future in plans. Absolutely. So there was I was going to chat a little bit about folk. Speaking of sort of inspirations and stuff like folk music, we were chatting a little bit. I think I shared Caledonia, which is one of my favorite Scottish songs. Always makes me like really homesick. So Dougie MacLean wrote it, the original, but KT Tunstall and Alan Cumming did a cover of it, and it came on my release radar, and I was like, "What? No way!" Like, I mean, KT's doing quite a lot of stuff, or just continues. I love KT Tunstall.
Same.
She's like, yeah. When I was a teenager, I think I said this to you, but like I just thought she was so cool, and it was just her and a guitar and her loop pedal, and I was like, "What is this? Wild!" And then I was like, before I went to uni, I had a year out and lived in Glasgow, and it was like, I thought I was just going to become KT Tunstall. And like inspired me to go and like just do it and like be like, oh yeah, I can just do it. I can do it with my guitar. And I did. I was doing lots of open mics. Obviously, didn't quite become KT Tunstall, but she's still
halfway there. No, you're more. But
And
that
yeah, anyway, that song was really cool. But
yeah, I love that song, and I wanted to tell you that the first time, really sweet moment. So I love Scotland. My granddad's mum is from Scotland, so I'm
you,
one part
your family
Scottish.
is
I know
everywhere.
they're everywhere, everywhere. Honestly, really are. My granddad loves the ancestry too, which I probably get from him. Like the other day, he sent me a message. He's like, "Can you help me translate this Nazi postcard that I bought from 1943?" I was like, "Yes, granddad." Obviously not. He's not, but he just loves history, and he saw like a postcard. It's crazy. But yeah, so I managed to go to Scotland in September, when we were released again, and it was like life was going to become normal before the 2 new lockdowns. And Maeve and I, my best friend, she she and I we have always loved Scotland, and we read the Outlander books growing up, obviously. And it's really funny, but I didn't know, but my mum, my grandparents, my dad had read them all as well, like in the 90s, and we actually went and did like a Scottish tour when we were little. And there's this like famous picture in the family of me wearing a kilt and a little eyeglass and like wearing red beanie shoes, red are they called beanie shoes, red, plastic, the little plastic shoes that you get.
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I wear them red ones with Thomas the Tank Engine socks. Anyway, and we were in Scotland, and I then growing up, I started reading the books without knowing, and my mum was like, "Yeah, there was books that we went to Scotland for, etc." So then me and my friend were like, "We should go to Scotland." So we just looked, and there were cheap flights from London to Inverness. So we went from Wednesday to Sunday, rented a car, and yeah, stayed near the Loch Ness, and then we went to Ullapool, drove up to
Oh, nice.
Ullapool,
Yeah.
and it was lovely, and it was so nice. And it was like me and my best friend, we've known each other since we were 12, but we hadn't gone on holiday as an adult together. And so we were just driving in a car. It was so nice because I used to drive in France, but living in London, don't drive anymore. So it was
Yep.
so cool to have a lovely car and just
Beautiful
driving.
road up
And
there.
Scotland, there was no one. And guess what, Venn? We had the best weather
Yeah.
ever. We had 5 days,
Scotland
blue,
surprises you, it's
25 degrees.
yeah.
It was like hot. There was no rain. There was nothing. And it was just gorgeous. We were sat outside in September, around the 18th of September, drinking pints in Ullapool. And crazily, this barmaid who was there, she lived in Limoges, which is right next to Tours, where I grew up. She was like,
Limoges.
yeah. And so we were there in Ullapool, and we bought this whiskey. We'd bought a bottle of whiskey, and we had a flask of whiskey. And the sun went down, and we were like on the docks of Ullapool, and we kept seeing the boats with Caledonia written, and our hotel was called the Caledonia. And I was like, what the hell does Caledonia mean? And so we Googled it, and we discovered that it was what the Romans called, that was what the Romans used to call Scotland, above what they used to have. And then we fell upon Caledonia, the song.
So you only discovered it last year?
Literally September of 2020.
Whilst in Caledonia
with whiskey on the beach as the moon was shining. And so me and we just played it on our phone, and we just loved it, and we both cried and held hands on the beach. And so when I saw you posting it, I just saw that, and I was like, that's the song, isn't that the song? And so then I listened to it, and I was like, oh, and it just took me back there, and I was like, I love Scotland so much.
Oh, that's cute. That's a really cute story. What a way to discover that song. It's beautiful.
Yeah. No, honestly.
Well, I was in Scotland over the summer as well. I went back, left London for a little bit to go back home because I couldn't afford to pay rent. And I was up in Loch Ness in August, so just before you. But I was still at my parents in September, and yeah, it was amazing. It was such a sunny month.
Beautiful.
I went swimming, like in some lochs in the area, like in September, and like, which is like unheard of. Like at any time of the year anyway. Like it's freezing, but it was so nice, and it just like it was. Yeah, I had a lovely time.
That's beautiful. God, after my trip there, I was saying, because everyone in my, I don't know if it's like you, but basically everyone in my life is in a relationship and I am not. And so now they're at the point where they're like, oh, let's buy a house in France
Ugh,
because we can, and because pandemic. So like my flatmates, I'm buying a house in France. And so I was like, fuck it, I'm going to buy a house in Scotland on my own. And I was
yeah,
like, do you know what? House on the sea in Scotland, little studio. I'd be happy.
that's my that's my dream.
That's my dream.
Little
Oh,
studio somewhere. Great. Well, I'll see you there.
in it. Shall we just put a
Should we
double
just do it?
deposit?
Fine. There you go. Heard it here first.
Woo!
Now, does anybody have any money?
Yeah. Kickstarter, please.
Yeah.
Get Venn and Kaine their studio home, please.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
That would be lovely.
Well, there's a good plan for the future.
There's a good business plan
Whenever
there.
we get out of this.
My people get in touch with your people.
Yeah, that'd be good. Thank you. Great. Right, I can't even remember what I was going to ask you, but I've had a really nice conversation with you. But I know that I do need to ask you about the song that we're going to play
Yes.
on the show. So, if you are listening to this on Glitterbeam, first of all, well done you supporting LGBT plus radio stations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So, and to give you extra points for listening on the radio Thursdays at 8 p.m. You are going to hear a live version of this song, which is extra special. But if you're listening on the podcast, don't worry. Thank you for listening anyway. You will hear the Spotify version, which is equally lovely. And this is one of my favorite tunes of that I found last year. Always gives me like it's really like an emotional song. It makes me
What do you think about it? Turn the question back on you.
Well, I think it's it's really like heartfelt and it really pulls me in as a song into the sound. I think a part of that is the undulating piano that I hear in it as well. I think really just kind of draws you in, and particularly when I kind of like you're saying that a lot of the music in the queer pop realm as well is very produced and like electronic and all that stuff, which is great, which is very much what I kind of did as well. But then I also had a like stripped back kind of song in my EP as well, and so I think that really drew me into the song as well because it sort of it kind of stands out, I guess, a little bit in this world currently, or the music that I'm listening to a lot of. So.
Well, you know, you're either a ballad bitch or you're not. I think I've just coined this term, but I'm definitely a ballad bitch. And
She's a
I
ballad
think,
bitch.
yeah. Sorry if we cannot swear on any of these.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to
but
cut this bit out.
that's right. I'm a, no, it won't work anyway. But no,
You should get a T-shirt with that. I think ballad.
That'd be great. I'll do
Merch.
that. But no, yeah, the thing is you do either love ballads or not, and I think I just love old timey music and slow tempo. Like you said, the kind of like draws you in, and I love up tempo and the produced and the pop. It's just not what comes out of my heart. Though I do love to do it, and I if I do kind of upbeat, it's kind of more dark. It's kind of like, you know, kind of trip pop, kind of mixing it. I like I like the nostalgia. And so there's nostalgia in every song of mine, whether it be sonically or lyrically. There's some kind of nostalgia, and I don't know why, because everyone says to me, "You're such a cheery person," and I'm like, "Well, I think I just get all the sadness out." But yeah, that song, last song I'll ever write, one of those songs that I wrote in literally like 5 minutes, and one of those where I was like, this exists already. And when I think that, I'm like, this is gonna be a good song. And it only happens for a few, and I have to go check, and I'm like, what is it, you know? But yeah, and so I just sat there and did, and it came out of me so easily, the lyrics, because it was, so the channel, as we were saying, you know, it was kind of like an outpouring of how I felt after releasing my first product. And I think the channel was me, that EP, including this song, was kind of like, oh, how do I feel after that? And so the last song I'll ever write is on the last fifth, the last track of the 5. And it's kind of like, I wanted it to be like a circle coming back to hope. And it's kind of like, so what it is it's a fantasy song of me imagining when I meet someone or be in a place. It doesn't even have to be someone, it could just be a place or a place in your life, yourself even, where you're so content that you never have to write a sad song again, even for that moment, because I'm always going to be writing some sad songs, you know. But you know, it was this, it was me writing a sad song saying, I hope I'll never have to write a sad song again. So there was a bit of an inception in there, but I wanted it to be a ballad, but also to have a kind of otherworldly bit. So when you've got the kind of the voices come in and it goes from the lower octaves to the high, I wanted it to be jarring. I wanted to, oh, you're listening to a ballad, you think you know how it's going to go, and then it's going to kind of transport you and lift you up until the end, and then you're going to fall back down, because that's how music makes me feel, you know, and how I want it, how I want people to feel when they listen to mine. It's they're taken on a journey of the unexpected, and so that's my song. And yeah, you know, I sing a lot about romantic songs for someone who's been single for 5 years, but you know, maybe.
Hey, I would say that single people have more to say about romance than people in relationships.
That's very true.
There you go.
But
I'd
yeah,
say
I
that.
love writing
Say
this
that as a
song.
single person.
Yeah. But yeah, I really love writing that song because it kind of really just, I hadn't ever really done just the piano and voice. And every song that I do usually starts piano and voice.
Mm.
And then Kaine gets greedy and I want to go somewhere else. But this one, I did it on the piano and I literally was like, that's it. The main vocal, I did it all in one track. It was one track done. And my flatmate
Incredible.
actually wasn't in the country, so my bassist, well, my a friend who plays bass for us, David Richardson, he came up and we had a gig that same night. And I said to him, I wrote this song last night. Do you want to hear it? And I played it for him. And he started singing on harmony, got his bass out, and we jammed. And he was like, we're playing that one tonight. And I said, yes, we are. And so we played it and we premiered it. And I taught him the lyrics and I literally created it the night before. We agreed, oh, we'll end on this chord. And it was just one of those things, like I was saying earlier, where, you know, two people come together and make it a memory. And so, yeah, I really like that song.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's a really beautiful song and
Thank you.
sticks in my head also as well.
Oh,
That was a good sign.
thank you.
And so the live version you did for Ripley, friend of everybody, friend of the
Oh,
show,
darling Ripley,
Ripley,
our queen.
uh,
Yeah, that was
for
really lovely because
the New Year show, was it?
yeah, it was for the New Year's show. So they asked me to do a performance, and I was like, actually, it was quite funny. So, well, it wasn't funny; it was a bit sad. But so I couldn't be with anyone for Christmas. My flatmate's gone back to France, and then they shut us down. So I hadn't seen my mum since like May, and so I couldn't go and see her, and I haven't yet. So I was alone with my cat Elton,
Mm-hmm.
and so when Ripley asked me to do the song, I was like, yes, because it will give me something to do. So I did a whole setup. Bought a jacket. I got some makeup, some
Mm-hmm.
fairy lights. And then I thought, do you know what? I really want to do a different version of this song and kind of give it a 2020, you know, the 2021 treatment, what's coming next, especially with like what I was saying about how we're collaborating with Polly. And so I was like, Polly, I didn't know you when this came out. We literally started collaborating a month before, but would you like to be on this with me? And she said, yeah, I'll work on it tomorrow. Sent her the WeTransfer. An hour later, she sent me back all the stems. She was like, sorry, I listened to it and loved it, and so I just did it. And it was really cool because usually Finn mixes more than I do. So this time it was all me. So the whole thing, mixed it, recorded it live. I did it for 10 hours. I started at 2
Well,
p.m., finished at 10:30. It was like, yeah, I had makeup, I had camera problems, but it was great. That was on Boxing Day. So I was like, you know, it gave me something to do while I was lonely at Christmas. And it was a nice kind of homage to what is saying, oh, I'm not going to be lonely. And I've still
yeah,
got that hope, you know. Everyone, that song basically says, you know, I know it's not the last time that I'll be lonely, but I also know that it's not the last time that you will hold me, the you being anyone and everyone that's all around us.
yeah, a lovely sentiment, and yeah,
Oh,
it's a beautiful version as well that you did
thank
for that.
you.
So yeah, very happy to be playing it.
Thank you.
Goodness, well, thank you so much for coming to chat to me.
No
An
worries.
absolute
It's been my
pleasure.
absolute pleasure. My absolute pleasure.
No, my absolute pleasure.
I'm going to come down past the Thames.
Yeah, well, we'll meet
Definitely.
somewhere for
Definitely.
some music in the park.
That would be great.
Perhaps.
Oh, when the spring
Nice.
comes.
Oh, great.
That would be lovely.
I'm just waiting for this gig, the gig to end all gigs. We can all play for each other. It's gonna be good fun.
Cruising and bluesing.
Great. Watch out for Kane's cruising and bruising. Not bruising. Oh God.
No, not bruising.
No bruising.
Anti-violence.
Just bruising your heart.
That absolutely. If your heart is not bruised by the end of listening to my songs, then I've done nothing wrong, right?
There we go.
Thank you, Venn. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, and all the best, and we'll chat again soon, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.